Who are the 10 best players on Syracuse football right now?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, we're going over who I think are the 10 best players on Syracuse football's roster right now for the 2024 season, and leave your comments below. Who do you think are the 10 best players on Syracuse football? We're going to go in order 1 through 10. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. So as I just said, we're going to rank the 10 best players on Syracuse football's roster right now. There's a mix of offense, a mix of defense, and even special teams, because special teams matters a lot in football too. And so I included them in this list as well. We're going to start with number 1, who I think is the best player on Syracuse football right now. And that is, in my opinion, Oronde Gadsden, a 6'5", 220-pound tight end or wide receiver, whatever you want to call him. He was a 2023 preseason All-American. Not that he didn't live up to expectations, but quite frankly, he got hurt. He had a good first game against Colgate, and then he caught his first pass against Western Michigan. And on that play, he got tackled a little bit awkwardly, ended up breaking his foot. We didn't know at the time that he broke his foot. It didn't seem like it was going to be that big of a deal. And then just before kickoff against Purdue, a few days later, it was announced that he was out for the season. And it was a crushing blow for Syracuse football because this is someone who had incredibly high expectations for last year. And rightfully so. In 2022, he set a Syracuse tight end football record with the most receiving yards in a single season with just under 1,000. The exact total was 969. He is one of the premier tight ends in the country, but honestly, you can classify him as a receiver as well. He's a weapon. That is what he is, and he is going to be expected to be the number 1 pass catcher for Syracuse football next season. As far as NFL draft outlook for him, I could easily see him being a day 1 or day 2 pick. Who knows? He could easily be in that range. He just has to have really another good year, put the injury behind him, show that he is recovered from it, and he could be a day 1 or day 2 pick. Oronde Gadsden might have the highest ceiling on the team for Syracuse football next season, as well as, honestly, the highest floor. I think you know what you're going to get from him. You're at least at minimum probably going to get 800 yards, given that he almost had 1,000 a couple years ago. He's going to be the highest targeted player probably on the offense. So Oronde Gadsden is my number 1 player on Syracuse football's roster right now. If you agree with me or disagree with me, well, leave a comment below. Who do you think is the best player on Syracuse football's roster right now? I say it's Oronde Gadsden. Comment below what you think. Now we're going to shift over to number 2 on the defensive side of the ball, and he is a transfer, a 24/7 Sports top 60 overall transfer, 4 stars overall. He is from Texas A&M, a defensive lineman. You might already know who I'm talking about right now. He is 6'5", 260 pounds, and that is Fadil Diggs, and he is in his last year of eligibility. He was second on Texas A&M last season in tackles for loss with 11, and that's in the SEC. This is one of those SEC transfers that Syracuse gets that is a legitimately really good football player. Like, okay, Syracuse football has gotten SEC transfers before. They got that kid from Alabama, Braylon Ingram, and it's not that he's bad, but he wasn't a premier SEC caliber player. Fadil Diggs, second on Texas A&M last year in tackles for loss. He also had 4 sacks. And I saw a mock draft on USA Today because I looked up where people are having him in terms of NFL draft standpoint. And I saw a mock draft that had him going in the 4th round. I believe it was to the Philadelphia Eagles, but it doesn't really matter what team it is. The point being is that he was just outside of the top 100 prospects for next season. So Fadil Diggs, I think, could have a very, very good season for Syracuse football. He looked impressive in the spring game. Fadil Diggs, I like him to have more than 4 sacks next season. I think he's going to be in maybe even a bigger role than he was last year at Texas A&M. I'll say 6-7 sacks at minimum for Fadil Diggs next season. He is my number 2 player on my Syracuse football top 10 list. And now we go back to the offensive side of the ball for number 3. And that is also going to be a transfer, though. And that is quarterback, 6'3", 210 pounds, also in his last year of eligibility. And that is Kyle McCord from Ohio State, a 4-star transfer. Last year, he had a top 10 QBR in the country. He threw for about 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. You want to do the math there? It's a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is really, really solid. Also a high completion percentage at around 66%. I really like Kyle McCord. I thought he played well at the spring game. He's got a lot of zip on the ball. I would say that he's not obviously on my list. He's my 3rd best player on the team right now. But in terms of who I'm most looking forward to watching next season, it's certainly Kyle McCord because his arm is just different. You can see the arm talent. You saw it at Ohio State, even though he didn't set the world on fire from a numbers standpoint. He was a little bit of a victim of the Justin Fields and the CJ Strouds and the Dwayne Haskins who came before him. But you saw the arm talent at Ohio State. You saw it a little bit in the spring game. Kyle McCord, I think, has NFL upside. I certainly think he would be invited to an NFL training camp. Eric Dungy has been in NFL training camps and NFL preseason games. He's made it there. Tommy DeVito started games for the New York Giants last season. And newsflash, Tommy DeVito stinks. Okay, he was not very good in college, and he even made it to the NFL. So Kyle McCord, I think he does have NFL upside. I don't know exactly what round I would put him in. If he had a really good year this year, I can easily say an early day 3 pick is probably fair. It's really finicky with NFL trying to project where a guy will go in the draft, especially in June, because you think about a guy like Jordan Travis, who I know he had the injury, but he went in the 5th round last year, if I recall. And Jordan Travis was like the best quarterback in the ACC. And he went in the 5th round. So you never really know what NFL talent evaluators are looking for. There's a little bit of difference, obviously, between college and pros. And I say that about Jordan Travis. Drake May was considered the best prospect in the ACC and one of the best in the country. That's why he went 3rd overall to the Patriots. And he did not have the same year that Jordan Travis had. So the point being, all I'm trying to say with Kyle McCord is that I do think he has NFL upside. I just don't know what round I would put him in. So those are my 3 best players right now for Syracuse football. Oronde Gadsden, number 1, Fadil Diggs, number 2, and Kyle McCord, number 3. Now coming up, we continue with the top 10 players on Syracuse football's roster right now. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn is a tool that I use all the time to find the latest job opportunities. But LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire a professional like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the streaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and on today's show, we're going over who I think are the 10 best players on Syracuse football's roster right now, and leave a comment below who you think are the 10 best players on Syracuse football's roster for 2024. My top three, as I just gave, were Oronde Gadsden at 1, Fadil Diggs number 2, and Kyle McCord number 3. Let's now go to number 4. We're staying on the offensive side of the ball, and I am going to go with LeQuint Allen, a 6', 195-pound running back. He's got 2 years of eligibility. Last season, he took over the starting job for Sean Tucker, and really it was a carryover from the bowl game against Minnesota, where he was the starter for that game as well. And he really impressed me in his first season with his first full season as a starter for Syracuse football. I shouldn't say his first season. It was his second season. All right. Sorry for the little misstep there, but that's okay. His first season as a starter, he made second team All ACC. He ran for over 1,000 yards. He also caught over 38 passes. And this was the thing that I was looking forward to most with LeQuint Allen last season was I'm sure he's going to be a solid running back. He can run for 1,000 yards. But similar to Sean Tucker, this is someone out of the backfield who can catch passes. Nowadays in football, you got to do more than one thing if you want to stay on the field. It's pretty simple. If you're a running back, you can't just be a power back. You can't just be a pass catching back. You want to be on the field the whole time. You got to be able to do it all. And LeQuint Allen showed in the bowl game, what do you have? A bajillion catches. I think it was 9 or 10 of them against Minnesota. I knew after that moment that the following season, taking over for Sean Tucker, might not be as good as Sean Tucker, but was still going to be at least be an adequate pass-catching running back, and he showed it with 38 passes caught last season. And also running over 1,000 yards is no small feat either. So he's probably going to be the starting running back once again for Syracuse football, and that's a pretty good thing. Second team All ACC last season. I would expect around a similar finish for LeQuint Allen next season. Second team All ACC. As far as NFL, no idea. You never know with running backs, especially, though. If that position is probably the most volatile in terms of where players are projected to go. You can see players sometimes projected first round, and all of a sudden the next day they're projected in the 5th round. You just never really know. I don't really know regarding LeQuint Allen and his NFL draft status. We'll see. If he has a big year, perhaps he does have the NFL in his future. Now we're going to go back to the defensive side of the ball, to a team captain, Marlowe Wax, a 6'1", 230-pound linebacker. He's made 38 straight starts for Syracuse football. He's in his last year of eligibility. He was second team All ACC last season, and the year before he was honorable All ACC. So it was nice that even though this guy is a veteran player, he took a step in his development. Oftentimes, the older you get, the more often, or the closer you are to your potential. It's not an accident, right? You get older, you're either getting closer to your prime, or you're already in your prime, or you're too old and you're past your prime. And Marlowe Wax showed that extra level, especially with no Michael Jones there. He was the main guy last year, and I thought he was solid. Thought he was rock solid at the linebacker position, and it's great to have that veteran back there, not back there, in the middle, patrolling everything. Marlowe Wax very comfortable with next season. NFL draft standpoint, well, it's tough, especially with linebackers, right? I mean, it's tough with everyone. I see this with every position, but Michael Jones, he's been invited to a couple training camps, so maybe that's a similar thing with Marlowe Wax next season. Time will tell with him. Now let's go to, I think, is the 6th best player on Syracuse football's roster for this season. It is also on the defensive side of the ball, not a transfer or anything, so also another returner. 6'4", 230-pound, rover, defensive back, converted wide receiver, Justin Barron entering his last year of eligibility. He was honorable all ACC last season. He had a career high 90 tackles for the Orange last year. A defensive back with 90 tackles is no small feat. And he played most of the season last year with a broken hand. He played with a broken hand. He broke it in the Clemson game, I want to say. And then from then on out, he played with a club on his hand. Highly, highly impressive. I don't really know how you do that. I mean, I get it. Like you're tackling and everything like that, but still, you're playing with a broken hand. That's got to hurt, even if you're in a cast. And I understand it's football, and football players play hurt all the time. In fact, there's a saying that you're healthy at the start of training camp, and from then on, you're never fully healthy again. Some players, when they enter training camp, are not healthy to begin with. They're coming off surgeries or whatever. Justin Barron last year played on a broken hand and still was an honorable all-ACC player next season. I think he still has room to grow, and he can climb on this list by the time we get to mid-season for next year. So Justin Barron is my 6th best player on Syracuse football's roster right now. So going over the list, 4 through 6, I have LaQuint Allen at number 4. The running back should be the starting running back once again for next season. Marlowe Wax, a team captain, linebacker for the Orange, 38 straight starts. He's just rock solid in the middle. And then at number 6, Justin Barron, who might have the most upside of those 3, but for now, I still have as the 6th best player on Syracuse football's roster right now. Honorable All-ACC last season with a broken hand for more than half the year. As a rover defensive back, he can do a little bit of everything in the secondary for the Orange. So that is my 4 through 6. The whole list, just to quickly go over once again, Oronde Gadsden 1, Fadil 2, Kyle McCord 3, LaQuint Allen 4, Marlowe Wax 5, and Justin Barron at number 6. Now coming up, again, we continue with who I think are the 10 best players on Syracuse football's roster for next season. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. And right now, the Boston Celtics are currently minus 420 to win the NBA Finals after taking Game 1, and this just might be their year. And I got to be honest with you, if the Celtics can't win it this year against the Mavericks, where they are the heavy favorite, then are they ever going to win the championship with this core? This is their moment. They have to win this series. They are clearly the better team. They blew out the Mavericks in Game 1, minus 420 on the Boston Celtics. And you can also cheer on O'Shea Brissett, a former Syracuse star, in the finals. So make a little money betting the Celtics, also cheering on O'Shea Brissett. Not a bad deal, right? All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Day now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and on today's show, we are going over who I think are the 10 best players on Syracuse football's roster right now. We have gone over the first 6 of them, and my list was at number 1. This is in order. Oronde Gadsden at 1, Fadil 2, Kyle McCord 3, LaQuint Allen 4, Marlowe Wax at 5, Justin Barron at number 6, and we continue 7 through 10. And at number 7, I'm going to go back to the offensive side of the ball, and that is Zeed Haynes, a 6'1", 170-pound Georgia transfer with 4 years of eligibility left. He had only 1 catch for 20 yards for Georgia last season. He's a former 4-star recruit for them. Listen, I might be higher on Zeed Haynes than most. I think he should be the number 1 receiver for this team, excluding Oronde Gadsden. I think Oronde Gadsden is the number 1 weapon, but in terms of just a pure receiver, I think it should be Zeed Haynes. I think he has the most potential out of all of them. He is a burner. We saw it in the spring game when he had that long touchdown from Kyle McCord. They tried it a number of times. He was open a number of times. I think he could have a monster season for Syracuse football next season as a field-stretching wide receiver. I can easily see it where he has maybe 45 to 50 catches, but of those catches, he averages an absurd yards per catch. So it could be like 50 catches for 700 to 800 yards, something around that range, because he's a burner. Possibly the wide receiver number 1 for next season. That's why I'm so high on Zeed Haynes for next year. I think he's got a ton of upside for this team. At number 8, we're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. And if you think that Oronde Gadsden is a Swiss Army knife, if you will, then this next guy, I don't know what he is then. If Oronde Gadsden is a Swiss Army knife, then and Dan Villari, who I'm about to talk about at number 8, what's more versatile than a Swiss Army knife? Well, maybe it's just Dan Villari. He is a 6'4", 235-pound tight end, running back, quarterback. I don't know. You want to put him on defense too? Who knows? He is a football player. He's got 2 years of eligibility left. He can run. He can throw. He can catch. Whatever you want him to do, he can do it. And he can do it at a pretty high level. He caught 20 passes last season for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was playing tight end. Those numbers don't scream off the page. They don't scream off the page. A tight end only catching 180 yards, that's not much. But also, he ran for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns, and threw for 177 yards, 1 touchdown, also 2 picks. So maybe he's not a great quarterback, even though he is a converted quarterback. He won ACC Running Back of the Week last year. Running Back of the Week. As a tight end, it was against Pitt, if you recall that game. The guy's just a bulldozer. He can really just do it all. It was on over 9 yards per carry. He had like 154 yards. What was it against Pitt? This guy can do a little bit of everything. So if you're looking at the weapons for next year for this team, right? You got Oronde Gadsden. He's the number 1 guy. You got LaQuint Allen. You also have Zeed Haynes. And then Dan Villari is the Taysom Hill right now, maybe of college football. That's honestly his comparison. It's Taysom Hill. Can he one day carve out an NFL future? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But because there's only one Taysom Hill. There's only one Taysom Hill in the NFL. So maybe Dan Villari can be the second. But Dan Villari, number 8 on my list right now. And number 9, we go to special teams. I believe I teased it off the top that special teams was included on the list. So number 9, punters are people too. Punters are NFL players too. Punters are college football players too. Jack Stonehouse, a 6'1", 200-pound punter, 2 years of eligibility left for him. He was 3rd team All-ACC last season. He had a little under 45 yards per punt, which was 2nd in Syracuse football history. Hey, that's pretty good. Here's the thing with punters and kickers, but really more so on punting, because I think we all understand the importance of a kicker. But when it comes to punting, you don't really think about a punter until you actually think about a punter, right? They're not important until they become important, right? They don't matter, and then they shank it, and it only goes 10 yards. Now you care about a punter. Or the punter is back there, and he drops the snap, and it leads to a block punt. Then it matters. Or the flip side is you're at the 50-yard line, you're punting the football, and, hey, they pin them inside the 10, flipping the field entirely. So all I'm saying is that it helps to have a good punter, right? It's usually not going to be the difference in winning and losing a football game until it matters. So Jack Stonehouse is my number 9 player on Syracuse football's top 10 players on the roster for right now. And number 10, concluding the list, this guy was a transfer 2 times. He left Syracuse. He went to an SEC school in LSU, and then he came back to Syracuse this offseason. That's right. I'm talking about Deuce Chestnut, a 6', 205 defensive back with 2 years of eligibility left. I believe last season they're going to count as a red shirt for him at LSU. He struggled there. He only appeared in 4 games for them. His highlight came in week 1 where he picked off Jordan Travis in that game against Florida State. But with Syracuse, he was really good. He showed a lot of potential. There's a reason why he was able to transfer from Syracuse to LSU. And no disrespect, they're 2 different programs. Syracuse hopes, and I hope one day they can be a program like LSU. In 2021, he was a freshman All-American. And then 2022, he was honorable All-ACC. So this could be a bounce-back season for Deuce Chestnut. Who knows? But I think right now he is the player that I would conclude the list with. I think an honorable mention needs to be given out to Elijah Clark. I sent the list to a buddy of mine before I recorded this, and he said, what about Elijah Clark? I said, yeah, maybe him too. But for now, I have Deuce Chestnut because he was really, really good at Syracuse. So if he can recapture that form, he's definitely a top 10 player on this roster for next season. So to recap the whole list for you guys, my 10 best Syracuse football players on the roster right now. At number 1, I have Oronde Gadsden. 2, Fadil Diggs. 3, Kyle McCord. 4, LaQuint Allen. 5, Marlowe Wax. 6 was Justin Barron. 7, Zeed Haynes. 8, Dan Villari. 9, Jack Stonehouse, the punter. And 10, Deuce Chestnut. So that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications so you know right away when I'm dropping the next podcast. Leave a comment below who you think are the 10 best players on Syracuse football's roster right now. And everyone, have a great rest of your evening.